Hey guys, I'm Justin with CBI Off-Road in Prinsu. Today we're working on a 2020 Ford Ranger. We're going to show you how to install our Prinsu Roof Rack. Let's get started. All right, so step one, you can see we've unpacked our roof rack. We just want to kind of lay everything out, make sure all the pieces are there. Here's our hardware bag. This is going to contain one bag for the hardware that'll secure the rack to the vehicle. This bag is for the wind deflector hardware. These are our tie-down eyelets. We have our T30 Torx bolts for the crossbars. And lastly, some Loctite that we'll install on all this hardware. So once we get everything unpacked, then we'll transition to the vehicle and show you what we have to do over there. All right, so the first step here in the vehicle is we're gonna remove the weather stripping from the vehicle. It's secured with a nut at the front and the rear of the vehicle. So we'll just remove this A-pillar cover, the weather stripping, and the sun visor, and that should give us enough room to get to that bolt. And in the rear, we'll just remove the seat belt and that trim piece, and that should give us the clearance we need in the rear. So we'll go ahead and get this front removed. Okay, so we got the front bolt out. Now there's one more in the rear of the vehicle, so we'll need to remove this cover on the seat belt, and that'll expose a T50 Torx bit to remove this portion of the seat belt. We'll peel back this plastic and weather stripping, and that should give us enough access to get to the bolt in the rear. These bolts on the headliner are 10 millimeters, so we'll make sure we have that socket handy. Okay, so our gutter trim has been removed. Our next step is we're gonna take our side rails and we're gonna align the furthest rear mounting hole of the side rail to the existing factory hole on the roof. We'll use that as a guide to mark the rest of our holes. So now that we got that lined up, we'll go ahead and get these marked. All right, so we got everything marked. Our next step is we're gonna start drilling the roof for our plus nuts and riv nuts. They're gonna require the same hole, 3/8 of an inch is our final diameter. I'm starting with a 1/4 inch drill bit just to open it up and get it started. But also I have this magnet that fits right in the hole, so any metal shavings will be able to fish all those out, so we won't have to further drop the headliner to get to. But for right now, we'll go ahead and get drilled. Wear some glasses so you don't get metal shavings in your eyes, and then we'll get to the plus nut install. All right, so moving along with our drilling, we have the final hole here where the factory stud came up to hold the gutter trim in place. That one, we just need to open that up to 3/8 of an inch to match the rest of our holes, and then we'll be good with this side. Okay, so we got all our holes drilled. The next step is we're gonna start installing our plus nuts and our riv nuts. So the plus nuts are gonna be gold in color, the riv nuts are gonna be silver in color. And it's a good idea to print out a copy of our PDF install guide instructions to make sure that you use the riv nuts in the correct locations. It's gonna be the first hole, you'll use a riv nut, and the middle mounting foot, you'll use a riv nut. Everything else will get plus nuts. Compressing these is gonna be the same process. You'll take your longer bolt, apply a washer, the hex coupler, and another washer, and screw the riv nut or plus nut all the way up to where it's butting up against this washer tightly. We'll put a layer of silicone on the underside so that we have a good seal when we push it into the vehicle. And then you'll hold the hex coupler with a 1/2 inch wrench, and you will turn the top of this bolt with a 7/16 wrench. Make sure you're applying firmly to the vehicle and evenly to make sure you get a good firm compression. And that's basically the process. We'll go ahead and show you up close. All right, so now we're gonna start assembling the rack here on the floor. So I like to prep all these T30 Torx bolts with the washer and a little bit of the Loctite provided in your kit before running them in. Also, we wanna assemble all the crossbars that aren't over a mounting foot, just because we don't wanna block our access to mount it to the vehicle. So we'll install them on the smaller slots that are away from the mounting feet. That way we don't have any interference later on. So we'll get these guys, get the wind deflector built, and then get everything up on the truck. Okay, so now we're gonna get our wind deflector installed. So we got our hardware here, and you'll find Phillips head bolts in here. We're gonna prep these the exact same way we did with the T30s with the washer and the Loctite. And also we have these T-nuts that we'll install in the crossbar behind the wind deflector. So these install really simply, just slide them in the slots, just make sure you have the threaded part facing up, and just count off how many we need in here, and then we'll line them up with the wind deflector, get it all tightened down. And of course you can't forget the noise reducing trim, we'll apply that as well. Okay, so roof rack's up here. Now we're gonna start getting our spacers in place and siliconing our holes. The silicone we're using, it's black RTV. It's weather rated, it's okay for UV rays, all that expansion and contraction that'll happen to summer to winter months. We've done 2 layers. We have a base layer underneath the plus nut, and now we're gonna have another layer on top. So this is gonna be a really superior weather tight seal. So without further ado, we'll get them gooped up. All right, our next step is we're gonna take the factory gutter trim and reinstall that. So we'll have to cut this actually where there's a mounting foot. So right now we'll hold it up here, mark our mounting feet, take it over, cut it with our cutoff wheel and bring it back. We'll also get some new double-sided tape in here so that we'll be able to re-secure it down to the vehicle. We'll go ahead and get it marked. All right, so all of our gutter trim has been cut. We're gonna apply our double-sided tape to the back side and get everything stuck down and secured. This front one, we're able to reuse this stud through there and thread the nut up and tighten it down. So we'll go ahead and get this all stuck down. All right, so everything's tightened down. We got our gutter trim reinstalled and secured. Next, we're gonna do these last couple crossbars and then we'll jump to the inside and get everything put back together. So just a quick pro tip, to get this nut started up onto that front piece of gutter trim, it's extremely difficult to keep the nut attached to your socket. So just to help yourself out, if you take a little tape and just kind of tape it lightly to the socket, obviously not covering up your hole, but that'll help you keep that nut on the socket to get it started on that stud. All right, guys, that sums up today's install tutorial on the 2020 Ford Ranger Prinsu Roof Rack. Thanks for watching. As always, like, subscribe, leave a comment below. Thank you.